everyone and welcome back to my channel Beth Chats Books. Now today's video is going to be a readathon TBR / my holiday TBR. So from the end of this week I am going to Montenegro with my lovely boyfriend for 1 week, so obviously I won't have a video uploaded. But I get very excited about what books I'm going to take on holiday with me, and this readathon has just started, so it's a perfect time to conglomerate the two into one video. So this particular readathon that I'm involved in is the Goodreads Summer Readathon. Now this started on June the 1st, and I know obviously it's past that date, so it's technically already started, but it is ongoing for 6 weeks, so you will have an opportunity to be involved from now until then. So if you would like to, then go ahead onto Goodreads and have a little look at that. But also the Wordaholics, which I'll link their Instagram down below, are helping host the Goodreads Summer Readathon. So you can go and follow them, and they have all the information about what challenges there are. And the premise, I believe, is it's kind of a challenge a week, but I'm not necessarily following that chronological order because I'm taking some of these books on holiday with me, so I might be able to finish kind of 2 or 3 books in 1 week instead of 1 book per week. So I believe that's how it's going to work, but I'm not necessarily fitting in with that. I'm kind of doing my own thing. And I've also decided I'm only doing the beginners challenges. Now there's the beginners and the intermediate challenges. So if you go on the Wordaholics page on Instagram, it has an image that's kind of got all the beginners challenges and all the intermediate challenges. So obviously if you would like to do the intermediates, you're more than welcome. So now that I've got all that jargon out the way, summer is officially here because the Goodreads Summer Readathon is open for business. So let's enjoy summer and let's get involved, okay? So the very first challenge that I believe this week, the Wordaholics was saying was this particular theme week with this challenge, is the Actually Want to Read challenge. So read a book that's been on your want to read shelf for more than a year. So I picked for that one Stay With Me by Adebami Adebayo. Sorry, I just had a bit of hair on my face. And I remember being really intrigued to want to read this when it came out. So 2017 was particularly a year I think that I first got involved in BookTube and was really up to date with what exciting books were coming out, and I was really invested. And I remember buying this as soon as I saw some of the big booktubers talk about it, but I never got round to reading it. So this is to do with Nigeria in the 1980s, and the main character Yejidi is trying desperately to have a baby with her husband, and she's gone through loads of remedies and religious kind of ceremonies and all these kind of weird and wonderful methods. The mother-in-law is not very happy with the progress, and then the husband asks for another wife, and so it's all kind of comes to a head with that, I believe. Well, I think this is really intriguing. This is a completely different culture to my own. This is a completely different outlook to fertility than we have in the Western world, which is so intriguing. I love to read about African fiction, and in the 1980s that will be a really interesting time. This will be really, really interesting to kind of read, and I feel like it'll be very good to read in the sunshine. So there's that one. And then I'm going to go back to the beginning of the list now because I don't know which week is which challenge, because obviously the next challenge will start next week. So I'm just kind of going in chronological order of the picture that the Goodreads Summer Readathon picture is for the beginners. So Good as Gold is the next one. Read a book that won a Goodreads Choice Award. So instead, I believe when I was on the chat recently that they said it could be kind of any book award that the book has received. So I've picked the Bailey's Prize winner of 2016, which was the Glorious Heresies by Lisa McInerney. Now this one sounds really interesting to me. So it's kind of set in Ireland, and it's to do with Maureen, who reconnects with her estranged son Jimmy, who is a gang lord, and an intruder comes into the house and she murders him, and he's got to kind of help her deal with the mess. Now that's not a spoiler because it says that on the back, so officially the blurb is a spoiler, not me. So I'm really interested in the setting of Ireland. Ireland is a really interesting place all the way from kind of the 60s and 70s to the present day, with the religion and the violence and the political issues there. So it is kind of a place that I'm really interested in particular. Apparently I heard that this was incredibly witty and whimsical, and it's funny even though it's talking about kind of dark issues. So I'm really intrigued. So this is another one. Stay with me, and also this one is also coming on holiday with me because I like the idea of having different settings when I'm on holiday, different worlds to enter. So there's that one. And then the next one is The Book is Better. Read a book being adapted for TV and film this year. So I have picked The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt because about 3 days ago I saw a advert for it on my phone. I was watching through Prime, I believe, and I saw an advert that this is coming quite soon. Now this is very, very optimistic for me because it's absolutely huge. So I believe it is, it says here 760 pages, which it kind of looks like a lot more. I thought it was about 1,000 pages, to be honest. So we'll see how successful I am at getting through this because it's a hardback as well. But with this many pages, it kind of needs to be a hardback. It is a very, very heavy book. Now I believe this was to do with a painting. Basically I bought that book ages ago and I kind of put it, I was intimidated with its size when it came, and I kind of just put it straight back in the cupboard and was like, eventually I'll do that, because I'm not really renowned or particularly good at reading big books. I love buying big books, and I've kind of got a whole wardrobe dedicated to big books that I was really excited about and then massively intimidated by. So these particular ones have not been read. So it talks about Theo, who's age 13. He's got an absent father, doesn't seem to be doing well at school. As he gets older, he likes going through antiques. And then I'm presuming, anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it connects somehow with a painting. I can't really remember the premise. I remember that this was going around and was huge for a while, and that's why I bought it, because it was really being talked about. People were really invested in it. And then I just never read it when everybody else did, and now I'm really out the loop with it. But I'm sure it's something to do with a painting. But that's all I know, really. So yeah, I'll see how I get on with that one. That one is not coming on holiday with me, as you can guess, because it's massive. I don't think I'd be able to have enough space for that, unfortunately, either in my suitcase or my hand luggage. The next one is short and sweet. Read a book with less than 100 pages or one that can be finished in one setting. Now this is probably controversial, but I'm picking Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway because it is just over, well, it's under 200, which to me is still a pretty short book. Now, I have been told that this is all based around one particular day. I attempted probably 6 months ago to try and read this and put it back down again. It intimidated me. So it's controversial to say the least if you can read it in one setting, because a lot of people struggle with it because of the way that the style is written, where there's kind of no breaks or pauses. It's just one long stream of consciousness. But I'm going to give it a go. I'm not going to take it on holiday because I know I'll get very frustrated with trying to get it read, because I think you really have to give your time and energy to this, and I prefer on holiday kind of escape reads. I know that this will be too cognitively demanding for me, but I'm going to put it on there. I know it's based around one day. I don't really know much more than that. I did try to start reading it and still didn't know much more than that. I'm just going to go with it and see how that one goes. So there, that one's done. And then on the bandwagon, read one of the most talked about books right now on Goodreads. So I decided to twist this one as well. And I picked Jack Kerouac's On the Road because it isn't particularly talked about on Goodreads now. It's not particularly recent as such. However, this is a modern classic and I've heard so many people talk about it, and a lot of people talk about it controversially because they do not like it or did not get on with it. So it seems to be a controversial thing and people are always talking about it, and my whole life I've heard so many people drop this in as a reference. And considering I've just recently read a short story collection from Charles Buratsky, I never know how to say his last name, and I recently read In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, which I loved, I feel like they all kind of have the beat, kind of the cultural wasteland of Hollywood and America during the 60s and 70s kind of in common. I know Truman Capote as such wasn't necessarily, In Cold Blood was based around a crime, so that's slightly different, but they're all kind of, these names are always thrown together as the ultimate American writers. And Jack Kerouac was part of the Beats movement with the author of Naked Lunch, what was his name, Nathan, and a few others were kind of part of this beat generation in the 60s. And so I kind of want to read him and tick him off because I remember doing modules about culture and American modules in university around my English course, and I was very fascinated with that, the whole American jazz and the underground lifestyle of the 50s, and so I'm going to give it a go and see if I like it or not, because a lot of people just do not like it, but it's always talked about, and that's one thing. And then where are we up to? Not From Around Here. Read a book set in a different culture from your own. So one that I am taking on holiday with me as well is Idaho by Emily Ruskovich. Now this was one that I remember Mercy over at Mercy's Bookish Musings was obsessed with when it came out. She was a real advocate for. I remember she said it, she kind of explained it to me so beautifully that I wanted to read it. I love that it's so floppy as well. And it talks about Anne and Wade who want to carve out a life in modern Idaho. Her husband's memory's fading and they're trying to recollect what happened with his first wife Jenny and his daughters. It goes in different perspectives. We learn this story, so it sounds like it's really interesting and unravelling and one that you can really sink your teeth into. So I think the cover is one of the most stunning book covers I've ever seen as well. So I'm really excited to get into this one. And then In the Friend Zone. Read a book that a friend has recommended. The choice for this one is going to be Michael Ondaatje's The English Patient. So I know that Jasmine over at Jasmine's Reads recently read this and she enjoyed it, I believe. And I once had this as one of my set texts at university and I never got around to reading it because I found it quite jarring. And they gave us this book as our first book to read in a big set of classics that must be read, kind of minimum set text for English students as such, your basic bible of books that really you should have read as an English student. I'm trying to open our horizons to all kinds of things, but this was very difficult because it was given to me my first year and I don't think I was quite ready for it. So I would basically say it's been recommended by my whole university in the English department, so I'll give it a go. I know it's quite hard hitting. It's about the Second World War and Hannah's a nurse and she stays in an abandoned Italian villa to attend to her only remaining patient, and we kind of hear his history through his recovery, and it's all quite painful and it goes back and forth. It's not the easiest to get into, but I'll give it a go. And then the next one, It Takes Two, read a co-authored book. So for this one I'm picking Revolting Prostitutes, The Fight for Sex Workers' Rights by Juno Mack and Molly Smith. Now I'm currently reading this and I'm about 50 pages in at the moment. I'm finding it fascinating. It is a non-fiction book that looks about kind of sex workers' rights. It is very intriguing to me because it does not go into excessive detail about the moralistic argument behind prostitution and whether that's right. And both Juno Mack and Molly Smith are sex workers, so they've basically created the arguments around, we're not arguing whether you think it's right or wrong, we're not arguing whether prostitutes enjoy their job or not. We're talking about the very people who are currently working in sex work like ourselves who are not having good working conditions, and if we change our perspective from looking at sex work as sex and instead look at it as a job, as work, how we're falling short of supporting people in that. They're not looking at the political climate, they're not looking at the argument of whether prostitution should be criminalised or not and those other things. It's purely from a workers' rights perspective, which I found fascinating, and it's also illuminating for me a lot about this process and about what sex workers kind of, their working conditions without picking a side moralistically about whether I think it's right or not. So I'm really, really enjoying it. It is quite a long book, but it's published by Verso, which write a lot of politically charged, philosophical and political non-fiction. They are amazing at actually producing really well constructed, beautiful books. Like, the pages are stunning. They feel really thick, really good quality, and I love that it's got the little pink edges for this. They make very good books and very interesting books, so I would check Verso out if you're interested in anything remotely political. So there's that one. I might take that on holiday with me because I am currently reading that one, so I'll see how that goes. It's one that you can kind of dip in and out of and read another one, because obviously it's very heavily academic, as I've noticed, so I do kind of take a bit of a breather from that one. Then the next one is Wheel of Fortune. Read a book in a format that you don't normally read, e.g. graphic novels, poetry, play, audiobooks. So I picked for this one Girls Will Be Girls by Emma O'Toole. So I don't read a lot of non-fiction, so Revolting Prostitutes that I'm currently reading is the first non-fiction in a while, and this is also a non-fiction. But I remember that Lauren over at Lauren and the Books absolutely raved about this, so it kind of talks about gender and femininity and feminism, and kind of deals with all those different things conglomerated into this non-fiction book. But I remember the general consensus with this is it's very readable. I don't think it's heavily academic in tone or style. It's a lot easier than that to get into, I believe that people said, and it kind of explains things to people. For example, if you want to know about feminism in a more basic and approachable way, I've heard that a lot of people say this is one way to get into it, because it's funny, it's light-hearted, but it is dealing with this issue and kind of introducing you into it. Obviously, for a lot of people who read a lot of feminist non-fiction or are heavily interested in it, this might be a little bit too basic for you, I presume. But I heard that everybody found this really, really useful when it came out, and like I said, a lot of booktubers raved about it, so I'm quite happy to give it a go. And I might take this one on holiday with me. I haven't decided as of yet. So there's that one. And then New Voices, read a debut novel. So I left it at my boyfriend's house, so I don't have it physically to hand. But that is Milkman by Anna Burns. I have actually already finished that book. Gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Now, I know a lot of people have been kind of torn with this book, and a lot of people have quite rightly said it's quite difficult to get into. I didn't have that experience, but what I want to do is when I come back from holiday, I want to be able to do a little mini review on that one, because I have a lot to say, and obviously because a lot of people have had a lot to say about that book, I want to put my 2 cents worth in it, because I had an overall very positive experience with that book. I know it won Man Booker Prize, and I know it's been shortlisted for the Bailey's Prize for Fiction, and I know it's not long till those awards, the kind of final awards, and the winner is revealed. So I don't think it's particularly going to win based on listening to a lot of other people's predictions and what the booktube community has particularly liked out of the shortlist this year. However, I did really enjoy it, so I will be doing a review of that one soon. And then the next one is Past Love, reread a book you loved when you were little. So I'm picking for that one Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Now, if you want any evidence that I loved this as a child, you can see it's a little bit battered around the edges. It has been well read as a child. I love Little Women. As I've said many times, I was named after Beth, one of the sisters. I think it's really, really sweet. It's one of those heartwarming books for me that I really, really connected with. But it's just so sweet and lovely, and as a young girl this was lovely to hear their adventures, and they tease each other and they fight, and you know, nothing's remotely conventional. They have poverty issues at some points. They don't have their father around for a little bit at the beginning of this particular book, but their love for one another and their mother's upbringing of them and the way that she helps them see the world, and the good deeds that they do and the adventures they get on. It's just really, really... it's just such a lovely escapist read that I feel fondly because I loved it as a kid. The first 2 books, Little Women and Oh, I forgot the other one. I don't know if it was... I know there's Joe's Boys and Little Men, and I can't remember the second one. I never finished the whole collection, so I might reread this one and then try and reread the other 3 books so that I can finally read all of them, because I did really, really enjoy them at the time. So there's that one. And then the last one is Armchair Traveler. Read a book set in a destination you want to visit. So I have picked Khaled Hosseini's And the Mountains Echoed. So I have 1,000 Splendid Suns in the other room, and I have The Kite Runner in my sister's bedroom, which used to be my bedroom. But I picked this one because I always keep getting drawn to how beautiful the cover is. I know that a lot of people raved about The Kite Runner obviously when it came out, and a lot of people have really enjoyed 1,000 Splendid Suns, so I kind of wanted to be different and try and read this one first and see how I feel. Many moons ago I read half of The Kite Runner and loved it, and I don't know why I didn't finish it. I will go back to reading The Kite Runner because I know it is an absolute classic, but I thought I might start with this one. So this one's Afghanistan in 1952. Abdullah and his sister Parry lived with their father and stepmother in the small village of Bag. Their father Sabor is constantly in search of work, and they struggle together through poverty and brutal winters. So it's kind of about a sibling's journey. I wouldn't particularly say I've ever had a compulsion to go to Afghanistan. However, I love reading about that side of the world, Middle East, and the culture and the struggles, and kind of taking yourself out of your Western bubble for a while and really understanding what other cultures have been like. So I really do think that this will be an armchair travel, and it will take me to a destination and to an experience that will be really enriching and rewarding. So there's that. So those are the books that I'm going to read for the Goodreads Summer Challenge. That's my TBR as such, and obviously some of them I'm going to be taking on holiday with me. So that's everything for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new video. Bye now.